When service in the military ends, those fundamental principles that became the foundation for being able to wear the uniform are the same core values that can be applied to almost any career. On this Money Monday, we'd like to welcome Kevin Campo, veteran and business owner of Painter One. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Why don't we start there? Why don't you tell us a bit more about your military career?
Sure. So my military, it's going back a few years, but I actually was fortunate that going to college I had an ROTC scholarship, and it was an Army scholarship, and that took me into being stationed at Fort Stewart for most of that time, down in Georgia, which is outside of Savannah, and I was in the Ordnance Corps, so I've always had an interest in mechanical things and, you know, cars and anything with an engine, basically. Yeah. And so Ordnance, what I did basically was run a maintenance shop for the 1st Brigade of the 24th Mech Infantry Division.
Wow. Yeah. And did you, were you in combat at all?
No, I was not. If you think about the 80s, right, it was kind of the height of the Reagan defense buildup. Okay. But we were mostly at peace, and so fortunately I was not, did not have to serve in combat.
And it sounds like the lessons and the training that you received in the Army parlayed into your career afterwards.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell us what that next transition was for you.
So for me, you know, the military is such a great learning laboratory, if you will, for leadership skills and behaviors and things like that. So I think any branch of the military gives you those skills that translate well into business. You know, being a team player, but also learning leadership skills, being a positive leader, learning some self-motivation, some self-discipline, overcoming challenges, things like that. You know, all those things that the military teaches you so well and trains you on so well, they naturally translate over into business. So the next step for me was, after I left the service, I actually went back to school and got an MBA from the University of Notre Dame. And then after that, I started with Ford Motor Company, and I had a 30-year career with Ford Motor Company in sales and marketing. And then after I retired from Ford,
it had nothing to do with mechanics.
So, well, you know, again, it goes back to the whole thing of, like, I love cars, I love anything with motors and things like that.
Yeah. So just being in the realm of cars.
And growing up, I was born in the Detroit area.
Okay.
So
it's all coming together.
Yeah, it was all, you know, it was one of those things where Ford was like the company that I always gravitated to. Yeah. We had a bunch of Mustangs growing up, and just, I love Mustangs. I still love Mustangs, still have Mustangs.
Hence the pin on
hence
your
the pin,
lapel.
right?
Yes,
so,
that's a Mustang right there.
Exactly.
I was wondering what that was about. Well, now we know the story behind this one too.
That's it. So anyway, that led me to Ford, and then sales and marketing, working with dealers for, you know, basically my entire career in terms of both sales and service side of the business, and just loved it, and had a, you know, great 30-year career. Retired with Ford, and then we had relocated down here because this is where we, you know, ultimately my wife and I really wanted to live in Charleston, and I thought, well, I'm too young to really retire, so what am I going to do? And I'd always kind of, after being in the Army and being with Ford, you know, two small companies like that, or small businesses like that, right? It was like, maybe I can actually have a small business of my own.
So you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, like, let me try the entrepreneur
So you retired
side.
And then became an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
How about that?
Exactly. That was kind of the
How different is it working for another company as it is opposed to running your own?
You know, it's very different, right? Because I think you don't, at least for me, you internalize a lot more of the pressures of the small business, whereas in the bigger business, I think that, you know, you're part of a larger organization, and you realize that I'm part of that large organization. Right. And me doing my part and everybody else doing their part lets that organization succeed. But when you strip it all down to a small business, many times, like for me, right, you're chief cook, bottle washer, and you do everything, right? From ordering the paint to talking to the customers to getting the contract signed to...
How did you end up Painter One? It goes from cars to painting.
Yep, so
and
big
businesses,
change.
houses, all kinds of things, right?
So it's mostly residential. We do some light commercial as well, but the bulk of it is residential.
So would you say that there are perks from having served in the military to starting your own business?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So all the same fundamentals that we were talking about earlier that you applied to your work in Ford as well, can be applied to Painter One and being a franchise owner and an entrepreneur. Yeah. It's truly inspiring. Kevin, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Really appreciate your time.
It's been fun.
We'll be back after this.